country, in the Pale of Settlement, where my father's family is from, and perhaps many of your families. It was hot, dusty, and miserable. But what made things even worse was an old man in the back moaning, "Oi, I'm so thirsty, I'm so thirsty." He repeated over and over. Finally, another passenger, sick of all the kvetching, said, "Here, have some of my water, just stop the moaning." The old man took a drink, and sure enough, for a few moments he was quiet. But then he moaned again, "Oi, I was so thirsty." So here we are in the book of Devarim, where Moses reviews all of the history leading the people and repeats all of his kvetching about leading the people. Last week, I spoke about professional negotiations and how stressful these can be. How much baggage can go into these negotiations? And here we are, professionally speaking, with the book of Devarim. This is the exit interview. And in my experience, do you know what exit interviews usually consist of? A lot of kvetching. Yes, often it's warranted. Often we're leaving a job for good reason. But also, it's a great opportunity to share all of your complaints because you're out the door. And most of us don't have the same job anymore for 40 years. Those days are in the past. Most of us have different careers that change over time. But Moses, he was in the same job with the same people for over 40 years. And this book, this is his exit interview. Nothing new happens here. It's a recap, a highlight reel of the Israelites' long saga of wandering in the desert. And boy, did he have much to kvetch about, and he repeats it all here. As I just read, he said to the Israelites, "May Adonai, the God of your ancestors, increase your numbers 1,000-fold and bless you as promised. And how can I bear the burden of you, the trouble of you, and the bickering?" What bickering? Well, my favorite example is when the Israelites complain that they have to eat manna for every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they yearn for the food of Egypt. They say, "If only we had died by the hands of God so that we could eat of the flesh pots in Egypt. We could have our fill of bread. For you have brought us into this wilderness to starve the whole congregation to death." It reminds me of like when my kids are at the beach or pool all day and one of them says, "This is the worst day of my life." And I say, "Oh God, I hope so. I hope this is the worst day of my life." Can you imagine, after everything Moses has done for the Israelites, not to mention, hello, God, yet they still complain? No wonder he loses it every now and again. I mean, the Israelites are very triggering. After all, in comparison to the suffering they experienced as slaves, wasn't eating manna for every meal a small sacrifice to pay for the glory of freedom? And the rabbis say that manna was delish. So what was the big deal? Why did they complain? Because they could. You see, slaves can't complain out loud or they'd be punished. But we free Jews can complain as loudly as we want, and we use this freedom really well. Now, we Jews aren't the only complainers. We're just super awesome at it. But all people complain, and that's because all people at their core are rarely satisfied with what's in front of them. It makes us an annoying species, but the rabbis remind us that this human desire for more, for better, our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, is actually the source of much of our achievement. The Midrash teaches, were it not for the evil inclination, a person would not build, would not marry, would not have children, and would not engage in business. And in the book of Kohelet, King Solomon teaches us that all work comes from man's jealousy of his neighbor. Being dissatisfied is what motivates humankind. Now, who could possibly say it better than the star of Wall Street, Gordon Gekko? Greed is good. And on the surface, in our lives and all around us, there is much to be dissatisfied about. Even our sages, in fact, would complain and bicker with each other, in this case, about having young teachers of Torah. Rabbi Ben Judah, a man of Kfar Habli, said, "One who learns Torah from youngsters to whom he is comparable to one who eats unripe grapes and drinks unfermented wine." But the teaching concludes in a most surprising way. Said Rabbi Meir, "Look not at the vessel, but what it contains. There are new vessels that are filled with old wine, and old vessels that contain new wine." The last line here is to challenge the previous teaching about only old wine having value. We may think we need to be young in order to learn something, to be a student, but in reality, you can learn at any age, and there are young people who are wise beyond their years. This teaching reminds us of our human instinct to say, if only I were younger, I'd be able to study. If only I were older, I'd have something to teach. Think about the last time you said, if only. If only something in my life were different. If only I made a little more money, I'd be more comfortable. If only my spouse weren't so stubborn, I'd have a better marriage. These aren't me. These are general. Okay, I'm not personal. If only I had more time, I would take better care of myself. That one is me. The trouble with if only is that it focuses us on what is not true instead of making the most of what is true and what might be possible. So a personal story about this. 13 years ago, my parents were living in beautiful Santa Barbara, California, and they didn't want to leave. It was lovely there. My sister's there. But my mom really felt like I needed more help than my sister. Sorry, Anne, she's watching. They're all watching. Love you. And so my mom really wanted to move to Florida to help us. And also it was a little bit motivated by the fact that I really needed help if I wanted another baby, and she loves a baby. So that was her real motivation, and she knew I really wanted to have a more substantial career. So my mom is the sweetest lady. You'll meet her. They'll be right here. I'm just allowing them to visit their other grandkids in Omaha this week, so that's where they are. And my mom said to my dad, "Stephen, I'm moving to Florida to help Rose. You can come if you'd like." I should have mentioned that my dad had said I would move to Florida over my dead body. And yet, here they are. They've been here for 12 years. And my mom didn't want to keep thinking, if only I lived near Rose, if only she'd a cute another baby. She moved here and helped make that happen to support my family. So what is the opposite of oy vey, if only? It must be the teaching of Hillel. If not now, when? So sure, kvetch. And then, rather than wait for something to change, just begin. Begin in small ways. We all have limitations. What can you do within those limitations? After all, to kvetch is to be human. To make a positive step forward is divine. And Moses knew this, because in fact, the next line that I didn't read, because it would have been a spoiler, is that he had a suggestion. The last thing I read was, how can I do this alone? How can I deal with you people? He has a solution. He says, pick from each of your your tribes candidates who are wise, discerning, and experienced, and I will appoint them as your heads. So let's follow Moses' example. Instead of just focusing on what is not exactly how we would like it, let's focus on what it could be. We will do so much better to focus not what is outside of our power, but on where our power lies, whether it has to do with politics, whether it's personal or professional challenges. We always have some power. So every single one of us has an if only, and probably many. But for many challenges in our lives, we can change our if only into not now when. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. May we continue to be strengthened in our kvetching as well as our actions. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are going to rise